Desert wind howls, sound of boots on sand. When Marcus Chen ordered a companion through the Frontier Match program, he expected a botanist named Zara. Instead, a violet-skinned mercenary with stolen biotech crashed into his life, and everything changed, water splashing into trough. Cattle lowing. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead, his tanned skin already burned despite the early hour. The relentless sun of Dusthaven Prime turned everything it touched the color of rust. His homestead, 20 acres of stubborn crops and struggling livestock, sat at the edge of civilization, where the desert met forgotten mining colonies. "Think today's the day, Rex?" he asked his border collie mix. The dog's ears perked up, sensing his owner's nervous energy. 3 months of messages. 3 months building a picture of Sarah Vance in his mind, a gentle hydroponics expert seeking a fresh start. Someone to share the burden of coaxing life from dead soil. Marcus had cleaned everywhere, twice. The prefab hab unit gleamed. Fresh linens, even scrubbed the solar panels until they sparkled. The distant hum of an approaching shuttle made his pulse spike. "Here we go," he muttered, running wet fingers through his dark hair and pulling on his least faded shirt. The shuttle's landing thrusters kicked up a sandstorm. As the dust settled and the hatch opened, Marcus's prepared greeting died in his throat. This woman was definitely not Sarah Vance. She stood nearly 6 feet tall, with skin the deep purple of twilight storms. White hair fell in braids past her shoulders, woven with what looked like metal beads. Her eyes, bright amber against that dark violet, locked onto him with predatory focus. Black combat gear hugged athletic curves. Twin energy pistols rode low on her hips, and she held a third weapon casually, like an extension of her arm. Marcus Chen? Her voice carried an accent he couldn't place. Musical but sharp, like wind chimes made of knives. Marcus nodded, automatically reaching for Rex's collar as the dog growled. She approached with the confident stride of someone who'd walked through fire and emerged laughing. Stopping at his porch steps, she looked him up and down with obvious appreciation. "Well," she purred, holstering her weapon with practiced ease. The data file didn't mention how attractive the colonist was. "My lucky day," Marcus found his voice. "You're not Sarah." A sharp laugh burst from her. "Observant. I'm Zara Kaine, and no, I'm not your ordered bride. Yes, I paid her to take my place. And yes, there are people hunting me as we speak." Marcus's hand moved instinctively toward the plasma rifle mounted by his door. Zara's eyes tracked the movement. Her smile turned dangerous. "I'm faster than you're imagining, farmer." Marcus froze. What happened to Sarah? Zara climbed the steps until she stood in his personal space. She smelled like ozone and something floral he didn't recognize. "Nothing terminal, if that's your concern." "Paid her triple what you offered. She's probably celebrating on a beach moon somewhere." She leaned closer, amber eyes dancing. "I needed to vanish. What better cover than becoming a frontier bride headed to nowhere?" Before Marcus could respond, the whine of approaching engines cut through the air. "Damn." Zara's playfulness evaporated. "Tracked me already." She turned back to Marcus. "Decision time, handsome. Turn me in for whatever bounty they're offering or help me disappear. Your choice, but choose fast." Marcus looked from the approaching vehicles to this dangerous stranger on his porch. His quiet, predictable life was about to explode. "Inside," he said, making a decision that would change everything, "and holster those weapons in my home." Dangerous revelations, Marcus practically shoved Zara through the door. Rex darted in after them, hackles raised at the unfamiliar scent. "Smart choice," Zara said, her voice dropping lower as she brushed past him. Her shoulder grazed his chest, and Marcus caught another hint of that strange, intoxicating scent. "Haven't made any choice yet," he growled, moving to the window, "just buying time." 4 sleek hovercars approached, kicking up crimson dust. These weren't the bulky local security vehicles Marcus knew. These were predatory machines, all sharp angles and weapon mounts. "Corporate hunters," Zara said, appearing beside him. She'd removed her tactical vest, revealing a form-fitting black shirt underneath. "The expensive kind. What did you steal?" Marcus demanded. Zara's amber eyes flashed. "Something they stole first." She glanced around his modest living quarters. "Cozy. Very frontier authentic." "It's home," Marcus replied, watching as 6 figures emerged from the vehicles. Different species, all armed. "And you're dodging." Before she could answer, heavy pounding rattled the door. "Quiet," Marcus commanded Rex, who immediately fell silent. He turned to Zara. Quick version. Now. Zara's confident mask cracked slightly. I stole biotech. Regenerative agriculture tech that can transform dead worlds into gardens. But it's not mine they want back, it's what I learned about how they tested it. She stepped closer. I can help you, Marcus. Your crops are dying because the mineral balance is wrong. I can fix that. I grew up on a terraform colony. My parents were soil engineers. I know things that could save this place. The pounding came again. Chen, we know someone arrived on that shuttle. Hand them over and we'll leave peacefully. Marcus looked at Zara skeptically. You can prove what you're saying? Your southern field, the pH is too acidic for earth crops. That's why they keep browning. Your cattle need copper supplements, but the local ones have wrong binding agents. She held his gaze. I can help them. Marcus had been fighting exactly those problems for months. Last chance, Chen. Making a split-second decision, Marcus grabbed Zara's wrist. Follow my lead. He opened the door, keeping Rex beside him. The 6 hunters formed a semicircle, weapons ready but not drawn. The leader, a massive reptilian with bioluminescent scales, spoke first. Where is she? Marcus arranged his features into confusion. Who? Don't play dumb, human. Another hunter snarled, this one insectoid, mandibles clicking. The Valorian female who arrived on that transport? Marcus stepped aside, revealing Zara. She'd somehow transformed in the brief moment, hair loosened, weapons hidden, wearing Marcus's spare flannel shirt over her tactical gear like she'd just thrown it on. You mean my wife? Marcus said, letting confusion color his tone. Zara moved to his side, slipping an arm around his waist with surprising naturalness. Sorry for the delay, she said, her voice suddenly softer, accent thicker. We were celebrating our union. Marcus's body reacted instantly to her proximity. He forced himself to focus on the threat rather than the warmth of her against him. The lead hunter's scales flickered red with suspicion. You registered for a bride named Sarah Vance. That's me, Zara said with a sweet smile that looked bizarre on her face. Zara Vance Chen now. She gazed up at Marcus with manufactured adoration. Right, husband? The image in your profile was different, the insectoid clicked. Marcus slipped his arm around Zara's shoulders. Those photos are always outdated. Besides, would you complain if an upgrade showed up? This drew chuckles from 2 hunters in the back. The reptilian wasn't convinced. We're hunting a fugitive, a Valorian with combat training and stolen technology. Mind if we search the premises? Marcus felt Zara tense. Actually, I do mind. This is my property, and unless you have authorization from planetary authorities, you have no jurisdiction here. The standoff stretched until the lead hunter finally stepped back. We'll be watching. When we prove she's not who she claims, we'll return with proper warrants. As the hunters reluctantly departed, Marcus maintained his protective stance. Only when the hovercars disappeared over the horizon did he release Zara and step back. That was too close, he muttered. Zara turned to him, eyes bright with adrenaline. You were brilliant. Natural liar. I wasn't lying about everything, Marcus said, his gaze dropping to where his shirt hung open over her gear. My homestead is failing. If you can really help, I can, she assured him, stepping closer again. And I always keep my promises. The air between them crackled as she reached up to trace a finger along his jaw. So, she murmured, should we continue our celebration for authenticity? Marcus caught her wrist, meeting her amber eyes with his brown ones. First, you tell me exactly what you stole and who's hunting you. Then we'll discuss anything else. Zara's smile was both dangerous and alluring. Fair enough, husband. It's going to be a long night. Rex whined softly, as if sensing his master's simple life had just become infinitely more complicated. Storm and Revelation's night sounds, fire crackling. Night fell fast on Dusthaven Prime, bringing cold that seemed impossible after the scorching day. Marcus fed wood into the small heating unit, while Zara sat on his worn couch, her weapons disassembled on the coffee table as she cleaned each component with expert precision. Talk, Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her. Zara's hands never stopped moving. What I stole is called the BioGenesis Matrix. Agricultural restoration technology decades ahead of anything public. Current terraform tech takes 50 to 100 years. This can do it in months. Marcus leaned forward. Months? That would revolutionize everything. Exactly. Zara reassembled one pistol with fluid speed. It's developed by Helix Corporation. Publicly, they're a pharmaceutical company. Privately, they control half the resource extraction in this sector. Why steal it? Zara's hands finally stilled. Because they tested an early version on my home colony, promised to turn our struggling world into paradise. Her voice hardened. Instead, they used us as test subjects. The accelerated growth released dormant pathogens from the soil. 90% casualty rate within 3 weeks. Marcus's chest tightened. I'm sorry. I survived because I was off-world with colonial defense forces. She resumed her work. When I returned and discovered what they'd done, I spent 4 years infiltrating their organization. Got close to their research division. Then I took everything, the Matrix, the research data, and most importantly, proof they knew about the contamination risk before they deployed it. The pieces clicked together. That's why they sent corporate hunters instead of using legal channels. They can't risk exposure. Correct. Zara holstered both weapons, but I didn't just take the research. She pulled a small metallic cylinder from her boot, no bigger than her thumb. This is a biogenesis core. Single application can restore 5 acres of dead soil within days. Marcus stared. And you know how to deploy it safely? A smile crossed Zara's face. My parents were the lead soil engineers on my colony. I was analyzing mineral compositions before I could read. I know exactly how to prevent what happened to my people. Before Marcus could respond, soft light began emanating from Zara's fingertips. The violet of her skin intensified as luminescence spread up her arms. Valorians have limited bioelectric sensitivity, she explained, light dancing between her fingers. But my father was Luxian. I inherited enhanced abilities. I can sense chemical compositions in soil, water, even living tissue. That's how I diagnosed your crop problems the moment I arrived. She directed the soft glow toward a dying plant on Marcus's shelf. The brown leaves straightened, color returning within seconds. That's incredible, Marcus breathed. It's why Helix wants me specifically. The glow faded. I'm not just a thief. I'm the only person who can deploy the Matrix to its full potential without causing disaster. A sharp knock interrupted them. Rex leapt up, barking, expecting visitors. Zara asked, hands moving to her weapons. Marcus shook his head, moving to the window. He cursed quietly. It's Marshal Torvin. Local law enforcement. Corporate hunters work fast. No, I don't think so. Torvin's our procedural. If the hunters contacted him officially, he'd bring a full security detail. Marcus studied the lone figure outside. He's probably checking rumors about my new wife. Small colonies, word travels, another knock. Chen, open up. I know you're home. Marcus turned to Zara. We maintain the act. Stay calm. He opened the door to reveal a tall, broad-shouldered alien with rocky gray skin and crystalline growths along his jawline. Marshal Torvin wore the standard tan enforcement uniform, energy baton holstered at his side. Evening, Marshal, Marcus said casually. What brings you out so late? Torvin's faceted eyes narrowed. Heard you received a bride today, Chen wanted to verify. Zara Kaine, Zara said, stepping forward with a smile that balanced demure and challenging. Pleasure to meet you, Marshal. Torvin studied her with obvious suspicion. Transport records show a Sarah Vance arriving. Maiden name, Zara replied smoothly. I took my husband's name immediately. How convenient. Torvin's tone was flat. Mind if I enter? Before Marcus could object, the Marshal stepped past him. His eyes immediately found the weapons on the coffee table. Impressive arsenal for a new bride. Marcus moved to Zara's side, the contact sending electricity through him despite the circumstances. My wife grew up on frontier colonies. She knows how to handle herself. I'm sure she does. Torvin turned to face them directly. Received reports about corporate security asking questions about a fugitive. You know anything about that? They were looking for someone, Marcus admitted. But they left when they realized they had the wrong person. Torvin's crystalline features remained impassive. Interesting that they appeared the same day as your bride. Coincidence, Zara said with a shrug that drew attention to where Marcus's shirt had slipped off one shoulder. The Marshal looked between them, noting Marcus's hand at Zara's waist, how they stood together naturally. Something in his posture relaxed slightly. I'll be reviewing those transport logs more thoroughly, he said finally, and watching you too. We'd expect nothing less, Marshal, Marcus replied. As Torvin moved to leave, he paused at the door. One more thing. Weather satellites detected a major storm system forming over the eastern Badlands. Category 4. You'll want to secure your livestock. After the Marshal left, Marcus and Zara remained close, neither quite ready to break contact. He didn't believe us, Zara murmured. No, Marcus agreed, but he didn't arrest you either. Their eyes met, and the tension that had been building since her arrival intensified. Marcus became acutely aware of her warmth beneath his fingers, the subtle alien scent that was uniquely hers. We should check the cattle, Zara said, her voice huskier. Before that storm hits. Yeah, Marcus replied, not moving. We should. Outside, wind began to howl across the desert. Neither of them noticed as the space between them slowly disappeared. The storm howling wind. Thunder and distance. The wind hit like a physical force as Marcus and Zara raced toward the livestock shelter. The approaching storm wall, massive and churning with crimson dust, loomed over the eastern ridge, backlit by dry lightning. We need to get them inside, Marcus shouted over the rising gale, gesturing toward the reinforced structure at his property's edge. Zara nodded, already changed into Marcus's work clothes. Despite everything, he couldn't help noticing how even his worn gear looked good on her. I'll take the north side, she called, sprinting toward the scattered herd. Rex raced beside her, responding to her commands as if they'd worked together for years. Marcus watched in amazement as Zara moved among his nervous cattle with fluid grace. Instead of balking at the unfamiliar alien woman, the animals seemed drawn to her. As she approached each one, her fingertips glowed with soft bioluminescence, and the cattle immediately calmed, following her guidance. Working together, they herded the last animals inside just as the storm's full fury struck. Marcus secured the heavy doors while Zara moved among the cattle, her hands still glowing as she examined each one. They're severely dehydrated, she said, voice barely audible above the storm's roar, and that mineral deficiency is critical. This one especially. She indicated an older cow that had been declining for weeks. Marcus wiped sand from his eyes. I've tried everything. The local supplements don't work with Earth origin livestock. Zara's eyes gleamed in the shelter's dim light. I can help them. But first, she pulled something from her pocket. A small device, sleek and metallic. Found this under your porch while you gathered supplies. Marcus took it, examining the coin-sized disc. What is it? Tracking beacon. Corporate grade. Her expression hardened. The hunters planted it during their visit. They've been monitoring us. Cold dread washed through Marcus. How long do we have? Not long. The storm might interfere with the signal, buy us time. But when it stops transmitting, she crushed the device between her fingers with surprising strength. They'll know we found it. Marcus ran a hand through his sand-crusted hair. So we have until the storm passes. Then what? Zara's smile was fierce. Then we stop running. She pulled the BioGenesis core from her boot. I'm done hiding, Marcus. This technology belongs to everyone, not corporations. Starting with you. Outside, the storm intensified, wind screaming against the reinforced walls. Why me? Marcus asked, stepping closer. You could have hidden anywhere. The transport was headed here anyway. It was convenient. Something in her eyes suggested otherwise, and...
He pressed. Zara hesitated, then sighed.
I researched you before coming. Human colonists are rare out here, but you've survived 5 years alone, built something from nothing. Her amber eyes met his. Humans have a reputation, stubborn, adaptable, unbreakable. That's what I needed. That's not always true, Marcus said, thinking of failed harvests, dying livestock. Nights he'd considered abandoning everything. It is with you, she insisted. I've watched you today. How you faced those hunters, handled the Marshal. You're exactly what I need. For what? She held up the BioGenesis core. I need someone who can protect this technology after I'm gone. Someone who'll use it to help people, not exploit them. Marcus frowned. What do you mean after you're gone? Helix won't stop hunting me, she said matter-of-factly. But if I can implement the Matrix here, prove it works safely, create a public record. She shrugged. Maybe my death will mean something. No one's dying, Marcus said firmly, gripping her shoulders. Not you, not me. We'll find another way. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the howling storm and pursuing danger faded. Marcus became acutely aware of her warmth beneath his hands, how her pulse quickened at his touch. Without conscious thought, he drew her closer. "Why do humans do that?" she murmured, gaze dropping to his lips. "Do what? Rush to save people you barely know? Take on fights that aren't yours." Marcus smiled slightly. "Maybe it's programmed into us." "It's fascinating," she whispered, her hands coming to rest against his chest. "My people are taught to calculate every risk, measure every alliance. But humans, you just feel and act. Is that bad?" he asked, voice rough. "No," she breathed. "It's intoxicating." The distance vanished as their lips met, gentle at first, then blazing into something urgent. Her skin was warmer than human, almost feverish. Marcus found himself drowning in sensations, her unique taste, the soft glow emanating from her skin wherever they touched, bathing them in violet light. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Zara looked up at him with wonder. "That was—" "Yeah," Marcus agreed, heart pounding. A violent gust rattled the shelter, jolting them back to reality. Zara stepped back slightly, though her hands remained on his chest. "We should treat the cattle first," she said, though her eyes told a different story. "Then I'll show you what the Matrix can do." Marcus nodded reluctantly, releasing her. "What do you need?" As they worked together treating his livestock, Zara's bioluminescence flowing through each animal, correcting deficiencies while teaching Marcus what to look for, their hands brushed frequently. Each contact built tension that had nothing to do with the storm outside. By the time they finished, the worst of the gale was passing. The wind's howl had diminished to a low moan. "Storm's dying," Marcus observed, wiping sweat from his forehead, "which means Helix will send reinforcements when the beacon stops transmitting." Zara's expression turned serious. "But first," she held up the biogenesis core. "Let me show you what this can do." As they moved toward the shelter doors, Zara suddenly stopped, turning to face Marcus. Her amber eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. "Whatever happens next," she said softly, "I want you to know, coming here wasn't just convenient. When I researched hiding places and saw your face in that match profile, something told me this was where I needed to be." Before Marcus could respond, she pulled him down for another kiss, this one filled with promise, heat, and something that felt dangerously like hope. Transformation and confrontation dawn sounds. Desert birds calling. Dawn broke over Dusthaven Prime, painting the sky in shades of copper and gold. The storm had left everything coated in fine crimson dust, but the air was crisp and still. Marcus and Zara stood at the edge of his most barren field. 20 acres he'd attempted and failed to cultivate for 3 seasons. "This is perfect," Zara said, kneeling to scoop up sandy soil. Her fingers glowed faintly as she let the grains fall. "Low in organics, but the mineral base is excellent. The Matrix will have plenty to work with." Marcus watched her, still processing everything from the night before. After securing the cattle, they'd returned to the house and given in to the attraction that had been building since her arrival. The memory of her luminescent skin against his, the way she'd whispered his name in that musical accent, it sent warmth flooding through him even now. "You're staring," Zara noted without looking up. A smile in her voice. "Can't help it," Marcus replied honestly. "Never experienced anything like you." She glanced up, amber eyes sparkling. "That's what you said last night. Several times." Before Marcus could respond, Rex barked a warning from the porch. They both turned to see a dust cloud approaching from town. "Visitors," Marcus muttered, shading his eyes. "Multiple vehicles." Zara stood quickly. "We need to deploy the Matrix now. Once it starts, they can't stop it without destroying the evidence of what this technology can do." She pulled out the biogenesis core, twisting the top to reveal a sharp crystalline point. "This goes directly into the soil about 6 inches deep. Then we activate and get clear." Marcus took the device, studying its elegant design. "How fast does it work?" "You'll see," she promised, her expression mixing excitement and determination. "But we need to hurry." Marcus drove the core into the ground at the field's center while Zara tapped a sequence into the exposed interface. A soft hum emanated from the device and the earth around it began to vibrate. "Now we run," Zara said, grabbing his hand. They sprinted back toward the house, reaching the porch just as the approaching vehicles came into clear view. Marshal Torvin's cruiser led, followed by 2 civilian transports. "Looks like the Marshal brought company," Marcus observed grimly. Zara's eyes narrowed. "Not just any company." She pointed to the second transport's insignia, a double helix wrapped in circuit patterns. That's Helix Corporate Security. As if confirming her words, the transport's door slid open and several armed figures emerged. At their center stood a tall, imposing alien with scaled skin the color of burnished bronze and eyes like polished obsidian. "Draven," Zara hissed, her hand instinctively moving to her holster. "Head of Helix security operations for this entire sector. And my former commander. You know him?" Marcus asked, surprised. "I told you I infiltrated their organization," she replied, voice tight. "He recruited me, trained me, thought he was grooming me for command." Her laugh was bitter. "Never suspected. I was just waiting for access to the Matrix." Marshal Torvin approached first, his crystalline features set in hard lines. "Chen, we need to talk." Marcus stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Zara. "What's this about, Marshal? And why bring corporate security to my property?" Torvin's faceted eyes reflected discomfort. "These representatives claim your wife stole proprietary technology. They have documentation and a detention order." "That's a lie," Zara called out. "And you know it, Draven." The bronze-scaled alien stepped forward, movements fluid and predatory. He wore an immaculate black uniform that radiated authority, a sleek energy weapon holstered at his hip. "Zara," he said, his voice surprisingly smooth for such a dangerous-looking creature, "you've led us quite the pursuit. Time to come home." "This isn't about stolen technology," Zara told the marshal. "It's about covering up murder. They tested their technology on my colony. Killed everyone." Draven sighed as if dealing with a difficult child, always so dramatic. "There were unfortunate casualties, yes, but progress requires sacrifice." "Tell that to my family," Zara snarled. Marshal Torvin looked uncertain. "I have a legal detention order, Chen. Don't complicate this." "Show me the order," Marcus said. "Let me see exactly what it says." As the marshal reluctantly produced the document, a low rumbling sound came from the field behind them. The ground began to tremble noticeably. "What's that?" one of Helix's security team asked, raising his weapon. Draven's obsidian eyes widened in realization. "She's activated the Matrix. Stop her." But it was too late. The barren field erupted in a wave of green spreading outward from the center point where they'd planted the core. Plants sprouted, grew, and matured in seconds. Desert grasses, hardy shrubs, even small trees pushing up through the once lifeless soil. The transformation moved like a living tide, racing toward the field's edges. Everyone, even Helix's security team, stood transfixed by the miraculous sight. In under a minute, what had been dead Earth was now a thriving, vibrant ecosystem. "That's impossible," Marshal Torvin breathed. "That's the BioGenesis Matrix," Zara replied proudly. "Agricultural restoration technology that could end famine and drought across the galaxy. And they want to keep it locked away, weaponize it for profit." Draven recovered quickly, his expression hardening. "Detain her," he ordered his team, "and confiscate all evidence of the Matrix deployment." "Wait," Marcus said, stepping between them and Zara. "Marshal, you need to see this." He held out a small data chip. "Everything Zara took includes proof of what they did to her colony. Test results, casualty reports, the entire cover-up." Torvin hesitated, looking from the chip to the transformed field to Draven's increasingly angry face. "This is a corporate matter," Draven hissed. "Your jurisdiction is irrelevant here, Marshal." "Actually," came a new voice, "that's not how jurisdiction works on my world." Everyone turned to see a tall human woman in a crisp colonial administration uniform approaching from the third transport. She wore the insignia of a sector governor, and her stern expression brooked no argument. "Governor Reyes," Marshal Torvin said, straightening respectfully. "I wasn't informed you'd be joining us." "Clearly," Reyes replied dryly. She surveyed the scene, her gaze lingering on the transformed field. "I received very interesting data transmissions this morning. Footage of miraculous livestock recovery using unknown technology, followed by this." She gestured to the green field. "Care to explain, Mr. Draven?" Draven's composure slipped momentarily before recovering. "This woman is a thief and saboteur. She stole classified Helix property and deployed it publicly, demonstrating its capabilities for the common good," Reyes interrupted. "Which is fascinating since Helix's official position is that no such technology exists." She turned to Zara. "You've been busy, Ms. Kaine, or should I call you Agent Zara Nix of Colonial Intelligence?" Marcus turned to Zara in shock. "What?" A small smile played at Zara's lips. I may have omitted a few details about my background. She's been deep cover for 4 years, Governor Reyes explained, gathering evidence of Helix, corporations' illegal activities, including their bioweapons development program disguised as agricultural research. Draven's hand moved toward his weapon. In a blur of motion, Marcus drew the plasma rifle he'd concealed behind the porch post and leveled it at Draven. I wouldn't, he said calmly. Humans might not look intimidating, but we're surprisingly quick when motivated. Draven froze, obsidian eyes calculating. Colonial intelligence has been building a case against Helix for years. Reyes continued as if nothing had happened. Agent Nix provided the final evidence we needed. The real detention orders for you, Draven, are being processed as we speak. Marshal Torvin looked between the governor and Draven, then made his decision. He unholstered his energy baton and pointed it at the corporate security chief. Draven, you and your team are under arrest for presenting falsified documents to law enforcement, attempted illegal seizure of private property, and conspiracy to commit genocide. As Torvin's deputies moved to secure Helix's team, Zara stepped closer to Marcus, her hand finding his. Colonial intelligence? He murmured, still processing. You're a spy? Was, she corrected, squeezing his hand. My mission's complete now. She nodded toward the transformed field. And I've got a new purpose, if you're interested. Before Marcus could respond, Governor Reyes approached them. Impressive work, both of you. The BioGenesis Matrix could revolutionize colonization throughout the sector. She looked at Zara. Colonial administration wants to offer you a position overseeing its implementation, with appropriate compensation, naturally. Zara glanced at Marcus, a question in her amber eyes. That depends. Would this position allow me to stay locally based? Reyes smiled. I think we could arrange that. In fact, we'd like to designate this homestead as our first official testing facility. She turned to Marcus. With your permission, Mr. Chen. As Draven and his team were led away in restraints, Marcus looked from the governor to Zara, then to the miraculous green field beyond. His quiet life had been completely upended in less than 24 hours. What do you think, Rex? He asked the dog sitting attentively at his feet. Rex barked once, tail wagging enthusiastically. Marcus grinned. I think we're interested in hearing more about this offer, Governor. New beginnings, gentle wind. Bird songs. Peaceful farm sounds. Narrator. 3 months after the BioGenesis Matrix transformed Marcus's barren field, the entire homestead was unrecognizable. Lush vegetation spread in carefully managed patterns across what had once been lifeless desert. Experimental crops thrived in neatly arranged plots, monitored by colonial administration scientists who came and went with soil samples and data pads. Marcus's cattle had tripled in number and health, their coats glossy under the transformed environment. But the most remarkable transformation wasn't the land. Marcus stood on the newly built observation deck overlooking their property, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. The woman beside him had changed everything. Agent Zara Nix, he said, testing the name.
Still sounds strange. Zara leaned against the railing, white braids catching the breeze.
She traded her combat gear for practical work clothes, though her twin pistols were never far away. Old habits died hard. I've been Zara Kaine longer than Zara Nix these past few years, she admitted. Sometimes I forget which one is real. Marcus moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Her skin glowed faintly at his touch, a reaction she couldn't control around him. You're whoever you want to be now, he murmured against her neck. The mission's over. Draven and half of Helix's leadership are in custody. The Matrix is being implemented across 3 systems. Zara sighed, leaning back against his chest. That's the problem. For 4 years I had one purpose: infiltrate, gather evidence, expose Helix. Now. She turned in his arms to face him. What am I supposed to do with peace? Marcus smiled. You could start by admitting you're not going anywhere. A flash of vulnerability crossed her features. Colonial administration has offered me 12 positions. Research oversight, security consultation, training coordination. She paused. All off-world. All off-world, Marcus noted, his grip tightening slightly. All off-world, she confirmed. Governor Reyes says my expertise is too valuable to waste on one homestead on one frontier planet. Marcus studied her face, reading the conflict in her amber eyes. Is that what you want? To leave? I don't know what I want, she confessed, her voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. My entire adult life has been about the mission. First with colonial defense, then undercover. I've never stayed anywhere with anyone. She trailed off, her gaze dropping. With someone who loves you, Marcus finished for her. Her eyes widened with surprise. They'd shared his bed for months now, their bodies finding perfect harmony despite their different species, but neither had spoken those words. You don't even know me, she protested weakly. The real me, don't I? Marcus challenged. He reached up to brush a white braid from her face. I know you mumble tactical assessments in your sleep. I know you hate the taste of coffee but drink it anyway because you love the smell. I know you're gentler with injured animals than you'd ever admit. His fingers traced her cheek. I know your skin glows brighter when you're happy. How you still reach for your weapons at unexpected sounds. How you've been secretly renovating that old barn as a surprise for me. Zara's lips parted in surprise. How did you? Rex told me, Marcus said with a grin. He's terrible at keeping secrets. A genuine laugh escaped her. Traitor, she told the dog lounging nearby, who thumped his tail happily. The point is, Marcus continued, growing serious again, I may not know Agent Nix, but I know Zara. That's who I fell in love with. The glow beneath her violet skin intensified, spreading up her neck and across her cheeks, the Valorian equivalent of a blush. I've never had a home before, she whispered. Never wanted one. But this place with you? She glanced around at the transformed landscape. It could be home. Could be, Marcus agreed. If you want it to be. Zara's expression shifted, her usual confidence returning. What about you? You signed up for a docile companion, not a former undercover agent with a complicated past and people who still want her dead. Marcus laughed. I signed up for partnership. Someone to share this place with. His brown eyes locked with her amber ones. I got a partner who challenges me, surprises me, makes me better. He gestured to the thriving homestead around them. Look what we've built together in 3 months. Imagine what we could do in years. Zara bit her lip, a very human gesture she'd picked up from him. Humans are strange, she said finally. Any other species would calculate the risks, weigh the practical considerations. But you just leap, is that bad? Marcus asked, echoing their conversation from that storm-swept night that seemed so long ago. No, she replied, her hands sliding up his chest. It's why I love you. The words hung in the air between them, her first admission of what they'd both felt growing for weeks. Marcus's heart hammered. Say that again. I love you, Zara repeated more confidently this time. And I'm staying, if you'll have me. Their lips met in a kiss that sealed the promise, her skin illuminating them both in soft violet light as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky. Night sounds, crickets chirping. Later that night, as they lay tangled together in the darkness of their bedroom, Zara traced patterns on Marcus's chest. There's something I need to show you, she said, her voice hushed. Something I've been working on. Marcus propped himself up on one elbow, curious. More secret agricultural projects? She shook her head, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. Better. Get dressed. They slipped out into the cool night air, Zara leading Marcus by the hand toward the old barn she'd been renovating. Rex trotted alongside them, alert despite the late hour. Close your eyes, she instructed when they reached the doors. Marcus complied, hearing the creak of the barn doors opening, feeling Zara's warm hand guiding him forward. Now look, she whispered. He opened his eyes to find the barn's interior completely transformed. The old stalls had been removed, the space opened up and filled with sophisticated workbenches, specialized equipment and walls of holographic displays. At the center stood a large transparent chamber containing a miniature ecosystem, plants, soil, and tiny atmospheric regulators working in harmony. What is this? Marcus asked, amazed. Our future, Zara replied, her eyes bright with excitement. I've been working with Governor Reyes's team to develop a portable version of the BioGenesis Matrix. Smaller scale, more controlled. She gestured to the chamber. This prototype can transform up to an acre at a time with precise calibration for different environments. Marcus walked around the chamber, examining it from all angles. You built this? With some help, she admitted. But the modifications are mine, based on what we learned from your field. She stepped closer, taking his hands. Reyes doesn't know yet, but I'm going to propose a new program. Mobile restoration units that can help struggling colonies and outposts across the sector. Teams that bring the technology to people who need it most, not just wealthy corporate interests. And you want to lead this program? Marcus asked, trying to keep disappointment from his voice. Zara's smile widened. I want us to lead it together. She squeezed his hands. The homestead would be our base of operations. Teams would train here, then deploy where needed. We'd oversee everything, but we'd stay home together. The implications washed over Marcus. You're talking about changing worlds. Starting with this one, she confirmed. What do you think? Marcus looked around the lab, then back to the extraordinary woman before him. The warrior who had crashed into his life and upended everything in the most unexpected. Wonderful ways, I think, he said slowly, pulling her into his arms. When I sent away for a frontier match, this wasn't what I had in mind. Zara laughed, the sound echoing through the barn. Disappointed? Not even remotely, Marcus assured her, capturing her lips with his. Humans have a saying. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never saw coming. Soft music swells. Desert night sounds. As they walked back to the house, hand in hand under the twin moons, Rex racing ahead of them, Marcus marveled at how completely his life had transformed. He'd wanted companionship to share his quiet existence, but instead found a partner to build something greater than either could have imagined alone. The homestead that had once been a lonely outpost in harsh desert was now the beginning of something that would transform worlds across the galaxy, and at the heart of it all was the most unexpected bride a human colonist could have asked for. A violet-skinned warrior with a brilliant mind and an unbreakable spirit who had found her home in his arms. The desert wind whispered across the transformed fields, carrying the scent of growing things where once there had been only dust. Above them, the stars blazed in endless configurations, each one a world that might someday bloom, but that was tomorrow's work. Tonight, there was only this, two souls from different worlds, building a future neither had dared to dream of. Narrator. In the end, Marcus Chen didn't get the quiet companion he'd ordered. He got something infinitely better, a partner, a love, and an adventure that would span the stars. And Zara Nix, who had spent years pretending to be someone else, finally found a place where she could be herself. Sometimes the universe sends us exactly what we need, not what we asked for, and sometimes that makes all the difference. Soft music fades.